Konnichiwa, everyone, and welcome to part 3 of What If Deku Played Hero and Villain. When we last left off, we had just finished rescuing the little unicorn princess, Eri, and pretty much threw Overhaul in for hell. But now we'll reach the conclusion of the Overhaul arc of this story. Well, why? I'm not going to bother wasting any more time. I'm going to jump right into it. First, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and share the video with friends. Like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a video. Be sure to share this video with your friends. And if you have any suggestions for stories I should read, put them down below. I will probably read them in the future. And say if we get this to 5 likes, I'll upload part 5 or whatever. Who knows? I'm still too new to YouTube to fully make real requests and whatnot. But in the meantime, I am sorry for the delays. I got distracted by Subnautica. Surprise, surprise. But anyway, enough dilly-dally. Let's jump right into this fanfiction reading. Sherry Hasakai, HQ, Tokyo. Kai Shisaki roared in inarticulate fury as the ground under his feet reshaped itself, becoming a spike to carry him from the courtyard, running to Hasekai's manor, up to what remained of the building's roof. The green-haired child facing him simply let aside that infuriating grin never leaving his face. Also, if you hear wind in the background, that's my fan. Just want to make sure I stay cool and whatnot. Anyway, who the hell are you anyways? The man shouted, veins bulging outwards around his eyes. Another victim of society infected with the hero syndrome. Another patient with the quirk disease. Midoriya chuckled. Oh, please. You make my motives seem much more pedestrian than they really are. If you must know, however, I am Prometheus, leader of the League of Villains. The teenager introduced himself, bowing slightly. But when child abuse is involved, I might as well be little more than another concerned citizen like many others who you erased for their care gaze towards your former ward. Enough talking! You could die now, Overhaul replied, lunging forward with his hands extended towards the soon-to-be victim. A slight pain stabbed through his shoulder for a brief instant, but the man thought nothing of it, lying one hand on the face of the dead man who walked and activating his quirk. To his shock, however, nothing happened. Your research was truly fascinating stuff, Prometheus said, freeing himself from the surprised Yakuza's grip and sauntering past him. The white-haired man covered in hands threw an object down to the group's leader, who caught it and held it up for Overhaul to see. The man's blood ran cold as he watched Prometheus reach into his pocket and produce a unique syringe-tipped bullet, one Overhaul himself created. I mean, look at this! To think you actually produced a legitimate quirk-suppressing drug! And not one of those amped-up opioids the government refers to by that name, but a true suppressant that only targets the quirk factor without adversely affected other aspects of the victim's health. Prometheus lauded Overhaul while sidestepping the latest suicide charge from the enraged temporarily quirkless man. Not only that, you also made a working prototype of an actual quirk-destroying drug that seemingly turns back time on evolution itself. It's a shame, really, he continued mournfully. All it took to achieve that goal was killing and reviving Erechin nearly every day for over a year. Overhaul screamed incoherently again and charged at Prometheus. But this time the teenager didn't sidestep him. Instead, right as Overhaul reached for his throat, Izuku Midoriya firmly planted his fist directly into Kai Shisaki's solar plexus. Overhaul crumpled to the ground, ripping off his burn mask and beginning to involuntarily vomit from the hit he'd taken, even ignoring the hives breaking out of his skin. Can you imagine how it must feel? To feel your life slipping away, to see the darkness creeping in at the edges of your vision, to fade away, to see only to be brought back in an explosion of unimaginable pain. And then to know that it'll all happen again to you tomorrow, and that you'll never be free from that fear. Prometheus wondered aloud, standing above Shisaki's shaken form. That'll be my fan. Crouching down next to his victim, Prometheus stared at the Yakuza right in the eye. Kai Shisaki, I know more about you than you might think. Much like Eri did, you killed one of your parents in your quirk manifestation. But sadly, you never forgave yourself. You became a genius biochemist, businessman, and crime lord. Yet when presented with your boss's granddaughter, you weren't smart enough to realize that taking your self-hatred out on her as a research method wasn't the right thing to do. Standing up, Midoriya raised his arms to either side. And your philosophy is all manner of wrong anyways. Quirks aren't a disease, a curse, a malevolent stain on humanity. They're a gift of evolution. Even I could see that, and I wasn't lucky enough to receive such a gift. Looking back to his foe, Prometheus let a look of disdain mar his features. Honestly, for someone so gifted, you really aren't very smart. Because what you lack in common sense, you decide to make up for in abusiveness. We can't let you leave here alive. Taking his earpiece, Prometheus sent a simple command to the party on the other end of the line. Do it! Send them in! Overhaul had just enough time to stumble back to his feet when a portal of black mist opened atop the roof. Then it hit him, a sudden feeling of sheer hatred, of refined, unadulterated malice. The man who stepped onto the roof stood over 2 meters tall, clad in a formal suit with a black mask covering his entire head and neck. Most notably, however, he gave off an undeniable presence of pure power, of incredible strength, and an incredible bloodlust. Overhaul was forced back to his knees by the feeling, but he was hardly the only one affected. Inversion hid behind the furiously sweating gentle criminal, and the rapper was actually trembling. The only two unaffected were Prometheus and Decay, who were used to this man's aura. Kai Shisaki, I presume. It has been far too long since I last saw you, the man began, and Overhaul's strength failed further. He knew that voice, and the last time he heard it was when he, his Oyabun, and the heads and clan captains of multiple other Yakuza clans had been forced to bow to that voice's owner. Ah, for one, Shisaki gasped out. Oh, you do remember me, the symbol of evil said, a hint of glee entering his voice, and a feeling like an entire melting glacier ran down Overhaul's spine. Do tell me, how is old man Murasaki doing? Well, I guess admittedly I was already an adult when his grandparents were born. But he at least looked old. Why, why are you here? Overhaul managed to say, despite the feeling of certain death lingering over his head. Funny you should ask that. I heard from my heir here that a small child with an utterly fascinating quirk was under your care. All for one explained, gesturing to Prometheus. But of course, I also know you are an interesting specimen yourself when it comes to the quirk you were gifted with. So I just had to make a personal call. Gift? Shisaki get questioned. Quirks are curses, not gifts. Oh, but on that point I disagree. All of one side, holding his arms open wide in the same way his son had moments earlier. Evolution marches on, gifting new adaptations to living beings via both random chance and adaptive pressure. These gifts help their owners propagate their genes to the void of eternity, and themselves are spread as well. I don't know what that could be called other than a gift, a benefit, indeed, perhaps, a blessing. You don't understand, Overhaul attempted to explain, but the pressure of All for One's killing intent on him hit a critical mass as the man reached down and grabbed his throat, lifting him into the air. Neither do you, and quite frankly, you never will, the symbol of evil said, taking Overhaul's quirk factor with his own and pulling. Black and red lightning crackled, and Kashisaki screamed in pain as he was liberated from the curse he believed to have ruined his life. You saw, you saw quirks as a curse, so I took yours from you. I hope you remain grateful to me in your final moments. Walking over to the edge of the hole in the roof, All for One regarded the struggling form of Overhaul with contempt. And with that in mind, goodbye, Overhaul. A moment later, he let go. Turning away from the struggling, dying form in the basement of the building, All for One addressed his heir in the league. You have done well this evening. I shall retire for the evening now, but soon after you return, I would like my son to visit me. I have a gift to share with you. With that, the symbol of evil returned through one of Kodagiri's portals to his hideout. That was fucking terrifying, Rapper managed. Inversion and Gentle both nodded in agreement, themselves still shivering slightly in fear. Don't worry, you'll get used to it, DK surmised, before turning to his adoptive brother. The cops will be here in about 5 minutes. They've stopped chasing the reservoir dogs. We should leave. Right, Prometheus muttered, descending off the roof of the building with his colleagues to the street outside the Hasakai's manor. Once they had retreated a safe distance, the teenager produced a detonator from within his vest, removed the safety, and switched it on. A moment later, dozens of the dark web bomber maker spyglasses, high-yield explosive babies, all activated in tandem, collapsing the entire complex in a cloud of fire and soot and concrete dust. The 5 criminals all left the scene seconds later via one of Kodagiri's portals, leaving no trace they had ever been there in the first place. Well, 4 days later. Was killing Murasaki said truly the only way, in your opinion? Yasashi Midoriya questioned his son from his life support chair at his Yokohama hideout, scrutinizing the tired-looking teenager standing before him. I think he deserved the dignity of a peaceful death, after being kept in a coma for so long by a man he thought he could trust, Izuku responded. I hope his soul was freed by my actions, granting him the eternal rest we all hope will await us. Noble enough a goal, to be sure. What else was gained from your mission? Hisashi asked. We obtained 48 completed samples of the quark suppression drug and a similar number of bullets containing it, 12 prototype samples of a quark-destroying drug, nearly 5,000 doses of trigger, of which 1,100 were Overhaul's special black gold formulation, and nearly 3 billion yen, of which we kept 40%, Izuku elaborated. Of the remaining 60%, another 40 went to the Peerless Legacy for their services, and 20% went to Girin for his. Hisashi chuckled. You may have overpaid Girin somewhat, but I can accept that on your first time negotiating a deal. What of the girl? Eri is settling in well back at home. After Mom and Himiko finished bathing her and bandaging her wounds, she slept for nearly 3 days straight before waking up, Izuku said. However, she was up in time for breakfast this morning. Apparently, she thinks omelet rice is delicious and loves apples. Fantastic! Hisashi exclaimed. I'm happy to hear she is slowly adjusting and leaving behind what Overhaul did to her. And speaking of that man, I have a gift for you, son. Come here, please. A gift? Izuku asked, stepping closer. What is it? The teenager was cut off when his father put one hand on his forehead and pushed slightly. Black and red bioelectricity crackled around the two as Izuku felt something warm slither its way into his jeans. Finding where his quirk factor would be if he had one and stopping abruptly. Fascinating, Hisashi commented, before pushing harder. A strange tension filled Izuku's body before suddenly snapping as he felt a new sensation spread through his body, like a new set of muscles he never knew he had. What did you do? He wondered aloud, dropping to the ground, gasping for air. Hisashi slumped back into his chair, slightly winding himself. It's as I suspected, the older man began. You never were truly quirkless. I never knew about my quirk until I accidentally stole fire breath when I was almost 20. So I long wondered if you were the same. I just gave you Overhaul. But given the effort I had to put into it, I think we discovered that you have your own form of all for one. I have a quirk? Izuku asked hesitantly, placing his right hand on the ground. The teenager felt his senses expand past his fingertips and into the concrete floor. It was unlike anything he had experienced before. From the individual quirks. What? From the individual quarks vibrating within the atomic nuclei to the electrostatic and ionic bonds tying atom to atom, the physical lattice of the concrete, he felt it all. Okay, that hurt just saying. And I'm not stupid, just never had to say something like that before. And for a moment, Izuku Midoriya wondered if he had just stared into the face of all creation, yet somehow walked away with his mind intact. Knowing what he wanted to do, the teenager grasped at the concrete structure and visualized what he was trying to create. The process was almost automatic. Seconds later, a portion of the floor exploded into dust, then began reshaping itself into a humanoid shape. Hisashi, unsurprisingly, started coughing when faced with a concrete sculpture in the shape of his nemesis, but didn't let his surprise show. Very good, Izuku. Can you undo what you just did? The man merely breathed a sigh of relief when the statue returned to the floor from whence it had come. As he stood back up, Izuku noticed an odd sensation spreading through his body. To him, it felt like a weird combination of muscle soreness, hunger pangs, and itchiness. Through it all, he could almost swear he heard a voice whispering. Noticing his son's hesitance, Hisashi spoke up. Is something wrong? I feel odd. A weird sensation, kind of like being sore, hungry, and itchy all at once? Hisashi asked before Izuku could confirm it. The man elaborated. That's the feeling of quirk hunger. Since quirks are a natural Since quirks are a body part, they demand stimulation, and difficult or powerful quirks require more than most. Is there a remedy for that? The teen asked. That's what it wasn't when I first manifested mine. So I had to satiate it for the longest time by taking quirks. Problem is that it's kind of like a drug addiction. It increases demand over time, causing the eventual withdrawal symptoms to be worse, Hisashi said. However, Garaki and I came up with a theory to solve this issue. Playing catch. Catch? Izuku asked, utterly bewildered. Like with a ball? That kind of catch? Okay, I'm gonna stop with the Izuku voice. That just sounds wrong. Ugh. Correct. Except the ball is a quirk or 5. Hisashi elaborated. Take my hand, Izuku. The teen did so, and immediately saw the same black and red electricity dancing as his father pushed several more quirks over them. I just gave you adrenaline, biospeech, great gains, color change, aqualung, parking space, and pocket dimension. What the hell does parking space do? That's what I want to know. Every afternoon, I want you to come visit me, and for 20 minutes, we'll practice tossing those quirks back and forth. Eventually, your quirk will be exercised enough that you won't end up having the withdrawal symptoms I had if you decided not to take any new quirks for some time. Izuku nodded silently, but internally he was slightly giddy. For most of his life he had no quirk, but all of a sudden he had 9. And as he bid his father goodbye and left through one of Kodagi's portals, the teen wondered how he could make the most of this new gift and become a proper hero, preferably without drawing suspicion to himself. One day later, I'm home, Izuku called, taking his shoes off as he stepped into his family home. His school day had been pretty peaceful, all things considered, mostly because he successfully evaded Bakugo with little difficulty during lunchtime and after school thanks to some of his new tricks. Quirks are really useful. Welcome back, Oni-chan! Eri shouted as she rounded the corner and tackled him in the legs. Oof! The teenager let out a slight cry of surprise. Glad to see you too, Eri. Did you do anything fun today? Yeah, the girl said cheerfully. This big man called Sensei came via one of Boro-san's clouds and said he'd really hurt and that my quirk could help him. I thought he was lying like Shisaki, but Mama said he was alright. Use it and he turned all young again. What? Izuku yelped, leapt to his feet and ran in the corner into the living room. There on the couch sat his mother, But next door was the same man, was the same white-haired, red-eyed giant of a man Izuku remembered from his childhood. A face he hadn't seen in over 5 years. Dad! Your face! You're better? The greenette stammered in surprise and joy. Surprise! You were right about Eri-chan's quirk. It really is something incredible, Hisashi said, standing up and stretching his limbs. I feel so light with all that medical equipment weighing me down. And I can see again. Now I can see just how much of a lady killer my son has grown into. He laughed. Now I can truly support you without any fear or issue, the man continued, reaching down and ruffling his son's hair. Hisashi Shigaraki smiled. I look forward to seeing just how far you'll go with my own 2 eyes, son. And with that, we finally put a close to the overhaul arc. And honestly, I really liked that. It was really good. But yeah, as you guys have realized, I have a hard time keeping a straight face when it comes to humor. And quite frankly, I am not sorry for it whatsoever. I just really can't. Truth be told, this is... You guys can probably see exactly why this is one of my favorite stories. It's freaking hilarious. And I really, really can't wait to see what else. I really, really can't wait to get to later chapters. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting story. I wasn't even expecting Izuku Midori to have All for One. And now Izuku has freaking Overhaul. The quirk, not the bastard. Yeah. And sweet little Eri-chan is now part of the Midoriya family instead of being looked after by Azawa. Will there be consequences? Doubt it. uh, Alright. Well, in the meantime, enough dilly-dally. Let's get right. Oh hey! All for One is now back to full health. That's not going to be a bad thing, is it? Nope, not in this story. At least I hope not. Well, just as long as freaking All Might doesn't give him another face lobotomy. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it. Oh well. On to chapter 8. Once my frickin' Kindle loads, at the very least. Chapter 8. Symbol of Peace. Chapter 8. Symbol of Peace. Musutafu, 2 weeks after the Shai Hisaki attack. I know that look on your face, kid. You're a hero fanboy, aren't you? This question was posed to one Izuku Midoriya, age 13, by a middle-aged man with odd star-shaped growths on either side of his head. The 2 of them were part of a large crowd that had gathered at a train station in Tatooine Ward. Musutafu watched as several local heroes apprehend the giant villain that had stolen someone's purse. Typical villain. Oh, in a manner of speaking, I guess I am. The green-haired teen responded, looking up from his notebook to address the man. Let me guess, you want to be a hero yourself, don't you? The man continued, chuckling a little. How'd you guess? The notebook, the starry eyes, or the muttering? Midoriya quipped in response, before his eyes were drawn back to the scene by the arrival of a new costumed crusader. The arboreal hero, Kamui Woods. Attention, inventor. You have violated Article 1, Section 3, Subsection 1 of the Japanese Court Code and thus have been categorized as a villain. The hero addressed the man, evading his enraged swings with ease. Illegal quirk use, disturbing the peace, disrupting rush hours, theft, and assault. You truly are the epitome of evil. That might be an exaggeration, Midoriya said in exasperation, thinking of his father's various misdeeds over a century and a half of villainy while jotting down notes. Hell, what I did to Overhaul 2 weeks ago was legally far worse than this. Woods began to extend his arms and activate his quirk, much to the hero fanboy's excitement. Here it comes! Kamui Woods' restraining super move! The locker chain binding prison! Canyon! Before the move could connect, a gigantic blonde woman wearing a skin-tight bodysuit appeared out of nowhere and drop-kicked the villain, throwing him into a nearby building. Good morning, gentlemen. My name's Mountain Lady. Pleased to meet you, she said, restraining the villain while posing to show off her greatest assets for the cameras. Alright, I gotta work, but it was good talking to you, kid, the mutant man said, turning to walk off. Good luck on your hero journey. Thank you, Midoriya shouted back, checking his watch to the process. The teen's eyes widened in surprise. Oh crap, I'm gonna be late for school! With that, the green-haired villain in disguise dashed off towards the hellhole known as Aldera Middle School, trying to figure out the best possible way to get there. Over a crosswalk, past some trash cans, and down an alley, he careened, avoiding a few startled cats before finding a secluded spot to stop. No cameras to see me. Guess I'm breaking the law today, Midoriya said before touching the ground and activating Overhaul. As the pavement enveloped him and sucked him down into the ground, the teenager thought about how he'd adapted to his new quirk, or more accurately, quirks. Over the past 2 weeks and the heavy training he put in to master many of them, Overhaul was one he'd hardly scratched the surface of. Right now he could only use it to access underground maintenance tunnels, but he hypothesized that eventually he'd be able to near instantly travel the distance by reshaping the earth around him to create a personalized subway system. The maintenance tunnels shaved a solid 5 minutes off his commute, and another use of Overhaul had him popping out of the ground in the camera-free area behind the school's tool shed. Less than a minute later, Midoriya was settling into his desk in honors class 3C, briefly looking around at how his peers pointedly ignored him. The teenager resisted the urge to sigh when he saw that his desk had been graffitied again with various messages of harassment, before touching the underside and surreptitiously activated an overhaul to repair the varnish and erase the messages. Good morning, class, called their homeroom teacher as he entered the room and took his place behind the lectern. Rise, sit, bow, shouted the class president from the room's front, Midoriya obliging as he took part in what he considered a vapid display of obedience to the powers that be. Today's lesson was going to be a career counseling for all you newly minted seniors, since this is your final year, the teacher began, taking a package of career forms out of his briefcase. A small smile flashed across the man's face as he threw them in the air. But we all know you want to be heroes! The other students fired off their own quirks in the air, cheering enthusiastically. Midoriya grimaced slightly and held one fist up with a half-hearted "Yay!" but internally the display of all these fascinating quirks is weighing heavily on him. What are you waiting? The voice in the back of his head said as his hands itched and his brain felt hungry. Take them. You have the power to do so. Why not? Why do you not use it? Shut up! The greenette responded internally, tampering the urge to take his classmate's quirk down internally. Don't let me in! Hold on, I have to get the right Bakugo voice. Don't let me in with all these losers, Sensei, came a brash interjection from the back of the classroom. Midoriya rolled his eyes slightly as Katsuki Bakugo, certified arrogant bastard and Adora Middle School hotshot, stood up to boast at his classmates. Most of them would be lucky to even be D-list sidekicks out in the country somewhere. The other students began to clamor and protest and repudiate Bakugo's claims. But the noise they made was nothing compared to the relief Midoriya felt as they stopped using their quirks. This peace didn't last, however, as the teacher cut through the noise and addressed the explosion user. You're aiming for UA High's heroics tracks, right, Bakugo? The protests quickly turned into mutters of shock and awe. UA High? The national school? Even as good as he is, can he make it? I aced the mock exams, Bakugo crowed triumphantly. If anyone's gonna leave this craptastic mess of a middle school behind and rise to it, it's me, because I'm just that damn good. Speaking of UA, Midori is also applying to their hero course, the teacher added. The room instantly went so silent you could hear a pin drop while the greenette in question stiffened slightly. And here we go, he thought to himself, rolling his eyes and counting down from 3. A moment later, the laughter hit. Midoriya? Seriously? What is he going to do? Stare the villains into submission? That doesn't seem wise. You get beaten up by a perch snatcher. A burning palm landing on the greenette's desk, exploding all the varnish off. Midoriya stared up with an unimpressed gaze at the clearly incensed Bakugo, the blood seething to the point of almost steaming. Dad, I just fixed that desk, he said. Deku, you insignificant fuck! Bakugo roared. You got some fucking audacity trying to stand in the same ring as me, you know that? This isn't some kind of meaningless contest, Kachan, Midoriya replied in an unimpressed manner. The greenette had hated his school life for a very long time, and much of its issues had stemmed from Bakugo's strange and obsessive hatred of him. Maybe once upon a time I was a coward, but compared to the likes of Overhaul, Kachan and his children are nothing. And I ended Overhaul and took everything that belonged to him, right down to his very individuality. Before the explosive blonde could reply, Midoriya casually stood up and looked around the room, completely ignoring Bakugo. It's true. A lack of quirks puts me at a natural disadvantage in the same way that a man with his bare hands would be at a disadvantage cutting wood against a man with an axe or a chainsaw. But Kachin is right about a lot of you. Many of you would be low-tier sidekicks at best. For this trick, I need a volunteer. Loud protests filled the room as many of the other teenagers decried the fact that their school's quirkless wonder was calling them weak. Midoriya's eyes scanned the crowd and eventually settled on one figure in particular, a hint of of vindictive glee creeping into the greenet's face at the possibility of humiliating one of his original bullies. "Thanks for volunteering, Yubiri," he said cheerfully, the students instantly shutting up as he walked over to the student in question. "What do you want, Deku?" Yubiri stammered as Midoriya leaned over his desk. Back at Midoriya's own desk, Baku was completely motionless, still processing the fact that his target had outright ignored him in favor of the rest of the class. "Your quirk, long fingers, lets you extend your fingers up to 1 meter in length," the Greenet said. "Tell me, does their strength and durability also scale upwards with size?" Yes, the other teen said, extending them to full length, only to be surprised when Midoriya grabbed a fistful of them and squeezed. "Ouch! No, stop, please, Midoriya!" "Looks like they don't scale upwards in strength that much," Midoriya explained. "Now, imagine that there's been a villain attack and a piece of rope was about to hit a small child. If you're a good person, you'll extend those fingers and catch it to save her. Except now your fingers are shattered and it's going to take months for you to be at full strength again. A hero who risks debilitating injury every time they use their quirk in the field won't last long in that field." "Midoriya, sit down," the homeroom teacher began, only to be silenced when the green teenager shot him a glare that made him feel like he was being down by an angry demon. A little trick the teen had learned from his parents and tested on Rappa and twice. "I don't remember asking you anything, Sensei," Midoriya responded as their teacher gulped and sat down. Glaring around the room at other students, he addressed them. "Yubiri is just the tip of the iceberg here. Kaku," a student near the front gulped, "your quirk makes your neck long, but doesn't increase its durability. You're an outright liability, not just disadvantaged." The boy's neck shrunk back to its normal length at Midoriya's harsh words. But now the villain leader in disguise is on a roll. "Taikoku," the horned girl in front of her sat petrified as Midoriya addressed her. "Do your horns have any special abilities, or are they just a mutation?" A few moments of silence passed before Midoriya continued. "That's what I thought. Not useful, but not actively detrimental." "You three," he shouted, pointing at the girl near the wall, another girl behind his seat, and a boy in the front row. "Can any of you do more with your hair than just extend it?" All three shook their heads and cowered. "Stick to modeling. You'd actually be good at that." "Kintsugi," Midoriya shouted, pointing at the teen sitting directly behind Bakugo. "Yours is actually useful. But why the hell aren't you wearing a shirt?" The teen in question squeaked when he realized his shirt was gone, hastily retrieving a spare Gakuran from his bag. "Hanami," Midoriya said to a boy against the back wall, who jumped when his name was called. "Your quirk is just having a long nose. That looks more uncomfortable than useful, especially with the pollen in the air." The teen nodded rapidly before blowing his oversized nose, now a deep shade of red, into a tissue from his jacket. Looking back around the classroom, Midoriya spread his arms out and addressed the class as a whole. "Out of all 31 people in this classroom, only a handful of you have quirks that would be better for heroism than outright not having that one at all," he said before pointing at the students in question. "Sukiya," a brunette girl near the door with a water control quirk, blinked in surprise. "Houmaru," the red-headed girl to the right of his desk squeaked, her fire quirk briefly flaring up to his acknowledgement. "Kintsugi." The startled teen had just managed to put his spare jacket on, immediately snapped to attention, sighing in relief when he realized Midoriya wasn't saying something negative this time. "Ishidate," a boy at the front with gravel for hair pointed a stony finger at himself with a quizzical expression. Relief melted into his features when Midoriya nodded in confirmation. "Bokuno," The teen gave a hesitant thumbs up, having just reconcealed his right arm from smoke. Fuwata! The dark-haired girl next to Bakugo's desk blinked a few times before slumping back into a chair. And of course, Bakugo. By this point, the blonde was silently shuddering in fury and surprise, still shook that Midoriya had ignored him until now. The greenette walked right past him and plopped back into his seat, grabbing the hand that had extended from the front of the classroom. Even your quirk isn't much to write home about, Sensei, he said, watching the man's face contort in discomfort as he plucked at one of the two elastic tendons connecting his hands to his arm like a banjo string. These tendons don't look too durable. I think I'd rather just have normal hands now. I think I'd rather just have normal questions. Now, any questions? Deku, you bastard! Bakugo finally snapped at the revelry with an enraged roar. How dare you! No quirk use in the classroom! Their teacher shouted, clearly unnerved as all hell by Midoriya's little speech. The greenette grinned as Bakugo stomped off and released their teacher's hand. The elastic rebounded, bowling the man over before he stood up and began to talk about physics. We're not done, Deku! Bakugo growled, looming over Midoriya's desk while the greenette scrubbed new notes in his notebook, the hero he'd seen that morning. When he didn't respond after several long moments, Bakugo grabbed the notebook and pondered it for a moment. Hero analysis of the future number 13, he thought, clapped it between his hands and blown it up. Midoriya stopped what he was doing and looked up with an exasperated expression on his face as Bakugo threw the notebook out the open window. Well, that was rather rude, he remarked. He set his pencils back in his backpack and slung it over his shoulder. Pay attention, damn it! The blonde roared, slapping his hands down on the top of Midoriya's desk, releasing an explosion as his compatriots with the long fingers and oversized nose backed up in terror. And why the hell should I do that? Midoriya countered, rolling around and slamming one fist down on the desk precariously close to Bakugo's fingers. Are you mad about that little speech from earlier? If you are, tell me one thing I said about our classmates that wasn't dead accurate. The explosive teen's eye twitched. You got some fucking nerve saying anything about any of them with no quirk of your own, Deku. That makes you worse than useless, he roared. I'd rather have no quirk and know my limits than be an overconfident moron who thinks they're hero material, despite a quirk that makes them an outright hazard, Midoriya countered. Again, for instance, his quirk lets him pull his eyeballs out of his head. That's quite literally worse than not having one. Shut the hell up! At this point, Bakugo was running out of ways to reply. What matters is that they have quirks, something to distinguish their individuality in the eyes of society. And you don't! I wouldn't wish that fate on the worst villains who ever walked the earth. So you agree society is wrong, then? Excellent! Midoriya laughed. I'm glad that someone as arrogant as you can see what a disaster the system is. Hey, Bakugo, maybe we should leave. Yubiri began, only for both of the arguing 14-year-olds to round up on him with fury on their faces. Shut the hell up, fingers! I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing, Yubiri. Turning back to the green-haired teen, Bakugo growled at his longtime victim. You know, Deku, there is one option available to you. Jump off a rooftop and pay for a good quirk in your next life, he shouted, and the room fell silent. Midoriya just stared at him for a few moments, before bursting into laughter. This only confused the blonde more, and he made that fact known. What the hell's so funny, Deku? You know, I've known for the longest time that you fit a lot of different descriptors. Arrogant, loudmouthed, abrasive, and distasteful, to name a few. The greenette began, but I didn't know that stupid also applied. Bakugo roared in fury and swung downwards with an explosive palm, but Midoriya dodged to the side and swung his backpack over his shoulder, process, placing one foot on the windowsill. "But you want to know something really funny, Bakugo?" he said, the blunt freeze and the lack of a nickname coming from his childhood victim. Midoriya's glare intensified before he delivered the last word of their argument. "Even my twitching corpse splattered on the pavement would be more heroic than you could ever dream to be." And then, before anyone could stop him, the green-haired teenager leapt out the window. Bakugo froze in shock while Yubiri and Haname leapt forward to look out the window, gaping in surprise. "He's gone?" the former asked in confusion, looking across the courtyard below. "I don't see him anywhere. No body, no backpack. I don't even see anyone with green hair down there," Hanami said, looking around the window's view shed. "What even happened?" A few blocks away, Midoriya walked down a side street. "Despite what I said earlier, quirks are actually really cool," he murmured, running a hand through his hair, currently pitch black while his eyes and backpack were both a deep cerulean blue. Color change was an incredibly useful quirk in disguises, especially since he could use it to temporarily erase his freckles. Looking down at the ruined notebook in his hands, he sighed and activated Overhaul to repair it as he passed under a bridge. A gurgling noise behind him caught the young man's attention, and he turned his head just in time to watch an enormous creature made of slime and filth climb out of a nearby manhole. "Sweet Kami! I can't believe someone like him is in town," the sludge warbled. "I gotta find a suitable escape route, and fast." At this point, the creature noticed a black-haired, blue-eyed child staring at him at the exit of the bridge. "Perfect. A medium-sized skin suit," he said. "Hate to do this to you, kid, but them's the breaks." With that, the sludge leapt at the teenager, only to be surprised when a look of irritation manifested on his face. "Sludge Dorome, cease this at once!" the sludge shouted, careening to the place. "How the hell do you know my name, kid?" The teenager smirked before touching a hand to his face. The villain stared in surprise. The kid's curly black hair turned dark green, while his blue eyes turned a lighter shade of green, and freckles dotted his face. "Boss? Hello, Mr. Sludge," Midoriya said, staring down his former subordinate. "Care to tell me what you're doing attacking me on a side street in Musatapu?" "Please forgive me," Dorome shouted, doing his best to bow as a creature made of sewer sludge. "I'm just trying to escape from him." "Him?" Midoriya questioned. "What hero are you talking about?" The manhole cover at the other end of the underpass exploded into the air as Mr. Sludge's eyes widened in fright. "He's here!" A titanic being of muscles and blonde hair stepped out of the manhole, decked out in casual clothes and holding a bag of groceries. "Have no fear, citizens! Hope has arrived!" boomed All Might, the strongest man alive. "Because I am here!" "All Might?" Midoriya stammered in shock, overcome by the surprise of seeing his idol in the flesh. "Unhand that young man, foul villain!" the symbol of peace boomed, pulling his left arm back. Midoriya's eyes widened as he prepared to call Overhaul to get himself out of the way. "Texas! Smash!" The blast of compressed air unleashed from All Might's fist, ripping through the confined space, aimed like a cannon out at Midoriya and Dorome. "Look out!" the sludge man warbled, wrapping himself around Midoriya as if he was attacking the team, but actually cushioning the young man from the attack. Midoriya returned to consciousness a few minutes later, with the feeling of someone slapping his face repeatedly. "Young man, please wake up!" All Might said before the teenager sat up and looked around. "All Might? What happened to the villain? The green ant asked before his brain caught up with his mouth. Wait, All Might? I need to sign my notebook. Wait, you already did! He shouted, seeing the signature that the similar piece had placed on his notebook, on his entry in the notebook. Your notes are mighty impressive, young Midoriya, All Might said, holding up two soda bottles containing a familiar gray-green. However, I need to get this fiend to the police station, so please keep supporting me from the sidelines. Wait, I need to ask you something, Midoriya shouted before deciding to do something unfathomably reckless. All Might soared through the air, high above Musutafu, before realizing he was experiencing an unusual amount of drag. Looking down, he realized why this was the case. Young Midoriya, what are you doing? The similar piece shouted over the wind. Get down at once! If I let go, I'll die! Midoriya responded, gesturing one hand to the city far below. Oh, fair enough, All Might responded, slightly sheepishly, before a small trickle of blood came out from one corner of his mouth. Shit, I'm running out of time. While All Might was looking away, Midoriya noticed a pocket containing a bulk of Dorme's sludge. It's my fault he got caught, he thought, reaching up to the pocket in activating overhaul. If All Might's pants pockets have a hole in it, who would suspect it? What you did was really quite reckless and irresponsible, young Midoriya, All Might said after the two of them had entered the top of the office building. Knock on the door a few times and someone should let you in. I have to go. Wait! I need an answer from you, Midoriya said, pitching on one knee after his wild ride on the number one hero's leg. Could someone without a quirk be a hero? All Might froze as a familiar pain racked his body. Shit, not yet. Becoming a hero has been all I've dreamed of since I knew what a hero was, Midoriya continued. I need to hear it from you. Can I be a hero? Internally, the young man was desperate for different reasons. Come on, take the bait. Pity me, and maybe I can get you to give me one for all. An explosion of steam covered the rooftop, slowly clearing to reveal the emaciated form of Toshinori Yagi. While Midoriya knew All Might had been injured as badly as his father from their clash all those years ago, even he didn't know it was going to be this bad, and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Yeah! No. Yeah? To be continued. Well, we are finally reaching canon timeline, boys and girls. Boy, this is. You can really see why I really love this story. It kind of takes itself seriously, but it kind of doesn't at the same time. It's really fun, really, like, interesting. And, well, we won't reach that revelation. We won't reach those revelations tonight. But if I'm lucky tomorrow, well, yeah. I really love this story. It's fun, it's entertaining, and I can't even keep a straight face. Also, how is my voice acting doing? Like, I'm not really too solid on like Midoriya's voice, but I think I got All Might's voice like down perfectly. uh, hold on. I mean, the story story has been updated. Was only updated like what, like 2 months ago? Yeah, back in March 1st. So I'm really hoping that we can get part 16 when it's updated. And yes, while I'm only recording 3 chapters at a time just to get that hour and a half timing of my videos. If this story ever does get updated, I will record for that chapter because it's fun and I like reading this. In fact, I'll even read it for the first time for all of us once that chapter is up. Alright, well, let's get into it. Here we go. Chapter 9. Worth your salt. What the hell happened to you, All Might? Midoriya asked, knowing the man was injured by his father during their fight, and not expecting it to be this bad. Are you somehow hurt? I'm happy you're not accusing me of being an imposter. The blonde hero chuckled before a cough racked his form. A little over 6 years ago, I was left badly injured in a fight, and lost my left lung and stomach, left kidney, and pancreas. Since then, I've been badly emaciated by my inhibited digestive capabilities and have various corrective surgeries needed to buy my career time. The man pulled his shirt up to reveal an ugly, dark purple scar spiderwebbing outward from the left side of his abdomen. Midoriya felt sick at the sight, taking in just what kind of injury his father had infected on a similar piece to leave him this way. Dad, what the fuck? So, go back to your question about if someone quirkless could be a hero. That's a hard question for me to answer. It would be even harder if it was not for this injury, All Might said. But if someone of my strength could be injured to this degree, if feelings the caliber of the one who injured me, a man so dangerous that the government covered up his very existence, still scheme out there, then I'm not sure if I can condone someone quirkless entering this line of work. For a moment, anger flashed through the teenager's mind. You're really going to tell me that despite having been born quirkless and given an ancient super quirk specifically created to kill my dad, Toshinori Yagi, you hypocritical fuck? Then it hit Midoriya. It was Yagi's injury at his father's hands that had led him to brush him off. I can understand him, but I still don't like it. I understand what you're telling me. What you're telling me is that either I should pursue some hero-supported related field, law enforcement, medical care, gear development, or marketing. Or if I do heroics, I should aim for the lower profit but higher risk underground field instead, becoming a limelight hero, Midori said. Actually, underground might make more sense for a lot of my activities. It would give me cover to use my quirks with less scrutiny. Yagi coughed. Well, I guess there could be another way. He started before the sound of distant explosions cut through the low hum of day-to-day life in Musutaku. Both Midoriya and Yagi looked toward the source of the noise, a plume of dark smoke rising from Tatooine Ward. Uh-oh. A few blocks away, Katsuki Bakugo thrashed for dear life. The giant mass of sewer sludge restraining him, making sure to fire his blast away from anywhere that could potentially harm it. Hold still, kid. It warbled. It warbled, directing another attempted blast towards the local heroes that had gathered nearby. The explosion missed and lit a fruit stall on fire. What the fuck are those losers doing? The explosive blonde wondered as he watched Death Arms, Backdraft, Slugger, Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, and the Fly all argue with each other while each of them couldn't go rescue him. Am I hallucinating this crap, or am I really about to die at the hands of someone made from shit because he was so fucking useless? At that point, Izuku Midoriya burst from the crowd, and an irate look on his face as he rushed towards the sludge man and the teenager caught in his grasp. Deku, come to save my ass. Yeah, I'm definitely hallucinating this shit, Bakugo thought to himself, closing his eyes and preparing to meet his end. To his surprise, however, the greenette yanked him out of the sludge, which felt somehow thinner. Maybe it was just in his imagination. A moment later, he felt a massive hand grab the back of his collar. Opening his eyes, Bakugo was stunned by the sight of his idol, All Might, holding back the sludge's pseudopod with one arm. To think I almost became a bunch of empty platitudes in a cheap suit. Thank you for reminding me what it means, what heroism means, All Might boomed. Now you should probably hold on for dear life, young Midoriya. Detroit! Smash! A hurricane exploded to life next to Bakugo's face, the sludge villain screaming as he was splattered all against the pavement. Blonde was vaguely aware of his longtime victim hanging off of the back of All Might's leg and screaming at the top of his lungs, while people on the sidelines hunkered down as best they could until the winds dissipated. A few moments later, a simple drop of water hit the teenager's cheek, followed by another, and then another. The sky turned dark and began to rain while onlookers gawked in awe. Even that damn nerd was looking around in amazement. You changed the weather itself. With just one punch? I didn't need your help, Deku! Izuku Midoriya sighed and rolled his eyes, turning around to face his longtime bully. That's an odd way of saying thank you for saving my life even though I tried to bully you into suicide today, Bakugo, the greenette said. By the way, you're welcome. Bakugo actually had the audacity to look downright shocked before regaining his composure. Whatever! Just don't get in my way, he shouted before storming down the street. Midoriya watched him go, then laughed. Well, all is well that ends well, I guess, he chuckled, turning to head down towards his own house, only to be surprised when All Might popped out from an alley into the middle of the road. I am here with an offer. The man began only to deflate in a puff of smoke and spurt of blood. Sweet Kami, are you all right? Midoriya yelled, pulling a few tissues from his pack and handing them to the road to wipe the blood off his face. How did you even escape the parasites back there after defeating the sludge? The man laughed and wiped the blood off his face. Young Midoriya, 30 years as a professional hero and an additional 9 spent learning about heroics across high school, undergraduate education, and graduate school have given me plenty of experience dealing with the press, he said, a small grin on his face before straight to address it. But that's not why I'm here. You saved not just the life of that other boy. You saved not just the life of that other boy back there, but you saved me as well. I would have become nothing but a cheap suit stuffed with empty platitudes about heroism, not the symbol that society depends upon, had you not moved me to act. With that, the number one hero got down on his knees and bowed a full dogza to Midoriya. I'm truly sorry for what I said earlier, because I was wrong, young man. You can become a hero. Midoriya gasped and gasped at the man's apologetic display, but eternally he was shocked for different reasons. Holy crap! Is he actually going to offer it to me? Standing up, Toshinori Yagi held one hand forward and seemed to glow with an ethereal light. You could become the kind of underground hero you mentioned earlier. But if you wish to be a limelight hero, there is another way you can do it. Izuku Midoriya, I possess the only true transferable quirk in the world, and would like to pass it along to you as my successor. The world's only what? Midoriya asked in surprise. Internally, his jubilance was reaching critical mass. Oh my god, he's actually offering it to me! Over the years, many people have wondered what kind of quirk I have. A strength quirk? Speed? Maybe something that amplifies my statistics according to my moral righteousness. Personally, I always like to deflect by saying I just ate healthy foods growing up. But the truth is much different. My quirk is a transferable energy stockpiling quirk called One for All, Yagi said, the ethereal light in his palm intensifying 1,000-fold. I am this quirk's 8th wielder, and would like you to be the 9th. Do you accept? I accept! Midoriya shouted without hesitation, immediately bowing. Excellent, Midoriya All Might laughed. However, your physical strength needs to be improved a lot before you receive this quirk. I have spent 39 years cultivating its power and adding it to the stockpile, so you risk crippling yourself if you're not in good enough shape. Holding out a business card with contact information written on it, Yagi finished his explanation. Meet me at this feast Saturday at 6 a.m. at Dagobah Beach Municipal Park to begin training for UA High's entrance exam. In this form, I'm just Toshinori Yagi, All Might's secretary. And yes, that is my real name. Now I must go, and you should too. But I look forward to getting started. With that, the man turned and walked off down the street, presumably to hail a taxicab. Midoriya stared at the card in his hands for a few moments before pumping his fist and whooping in delight after making sure nobody was around to see his outburst. I'm really getting all for one. Once for all. Time to bring my uncle's quirk back to the family. A few minutes later, Midoriya returned home and opened the front door just in time to be swept into a crushing hug by his mother. Izuku! I'm so glad you're safe! She cried, hugging and crying on him. The teenager was used to his mother's emotional outbursts, but was still somewhat surprised by the immense strength she seemed to have hidden for years. It's good to be home, Mom, Izuku said as his mother released him. As he took off his shoes, the teenager continued to talk to the green-haired housewife. Is Dad here? Your father? He's back in his study again, Yuko said. If I had to guess, he's probably plotting bloody murder against that sludge man from earlier. Well, that won't do it all. Well, that won't do it all. Both Dad and I owe Dorame-san a debt of thanks now, Izuku said, tracing a path to the door of his father's office and knocking on it. Dad, I'm home. Come in, Hisashi said, his son obliging to open the door to find the old man sketching out a murder plan on a napkin. Plotting to kill Mr. Sludge? That won't do. We both own one now, the Greenette said, grabbing the plans out from Hisashi. Care to explain why I shouldn't kill someone who's trying to grievously injure you, Izuku? Hisashi asked, crossing his arms. Izuku smirked. Well, without him creating that little incident with Bakugo, I wouldn't have been able to impress a certain hero into taking me on as his successor and making plans to give me a very valuable item that he's the 8th holder of. The Greenette said, watching his father's expression slowly morph from confusion to surprise to abject glee at his words. No way! Hisashi breathed slowly, disbelief in his voice. He didn't. My training to become the 9th holder of One for All starts this Saturday, 6 a.m. at Dagobah Beach, Izuku said, a cheeky grin spreading across his face. I'm getting Uncle Yoichi's quirk back in the family, Dad. The ever-stoic demon lord who had terrorized Japan's underworld for over a century couldn't hold it in anymore. With a whoop of joy, Hisashi Shigaraki embraced his son, a look of delight on his face. Incredible, Izuku! You've accomplished my single greatest goal in less than 6 months as a villain! He laughed. Izuku chuckled slightly. I guess I have, Dad. Could you call Oboro-sen? I need to go meet up with Tenko and Himiko. This development means we're going to change all our plans by a lot. Hisashi released his son, still smiling. Of course! But before you go, I have 2 quirks that I want to offer you to prepare for using one for all, he said. What did I do? Izuku asked. Great Gains is an excessive quirk that passively increases muscle and bone density based on diet and exercise. If that blonde oaf is going to be training you, you need every advantage you can get to make the most of it, Hisashi said as his son rolled his eyes about his father's dismissal of his idol. The other is shock absorption, which should mitigate any backlash you have from using it after he passes it to you. I'll take both, Izuku said, his quirk's hunger acting up again at the promise of new fodder. The two shook hands before briefly struggling for control in an amiable tug of war before Hisashi sighed and let the 2 parcels be consumed by Izuku's own quirk factor. One quick phone call later, the green-haired teen was in Camino Ward, Yokohama, face to face with his League of Villains. Good news, everyone, he said. The parcel known as OFA is secure. That night, the lights were on at Oboro's back alley tavern long into the wee hours of the morning, closed for a private party. And if a daring villain with a sludge body quirk happened to disappear from a medium security prison cell a few days later, at the same time that a perfectly legal soda company totally was a money launderer hired a new accountant, well, whose business was that? A few days later, Dagobah Beach Municipal Park. What a dump, Midoriya remarked, looking out over the trash and scrap metal piled high across the so-called park. How could this happen anyway? Pretty bad. Pretty bad, isn't it? Yagi agreed in his small microphone. Further down the coast, people used to dump trash into the ocean, and eventually the currents carried it ashore here. It later turned out to be the work of a hydrokinetic villain that would have been done against the Shizuoka Coastal Commission, and the trash stopped coming in that way. But locals saw it as a place to dump everything from tin cans to appliances free of charge. And now it looks like this. Midoriya sighed. Human pettiness and laziness at work again. Why am I not surprised? I take it you plan on having me clean this? Yagi nodded. You're correct. Heroes weren't always flying billboards the way they seem to be nowadays. Back when I was a teenager, many were involved in community service efforts like this cleanup would be. Back when I was a teenager, many were involved in community service efforts like this cleanup would be. I want you to show this community that you're a true hero long before you ever set foot at UA High. To his surprise, the teenager already had his jacket off and doing some warm-up stretches. What are we waiting for then, Yaki-sensei? Let's get started, the greenette shouted, pulling on a pair of reinforced gloves and practically leaping headlong into a pile of old washing machines. This kid, Yagi thought to himself, a smile forming on his face. You got it, young Midoriya. I'll pull the truck around. The similar police shouted. His protege's infectious enthusiasm filled him with passion for life he thought had died when he woke up in the hospital after his last fight with Awful One. Days turned to weeks, and the weeks turned to months, as the villain heir followed his hero mentor's aim to pass American dream plan, slowly clearing the trash from the beach. Despite All Might's initial concerns about Midoriya's pacing, the teenager didn't suffer any exhaustion issues, assuring his mentor that he was simply getting enough sleep to not suffer any drawbacks. After all, Yagi didn't know about the exercise quirk boost in his protege's fitness training. Not that it wasn't exhausting, of course. Midoriya was so tired when he got back from school and training that he barely spoke to his father and had no idea what Tanko was up to, though he knew they were doing something behind his back. Finally, a crisp autumn morning came 6.5 months later, in late October, when Yagi parked his truck at the seawall overlooking Dagobah Beach. He nearly choked in surprise. From south to north, every square inch of the sand was clear of trash and debris. Clear water lapped up the beachfront while seagulls dove down to grab clams exposed by the tide. And for a moment, he even swore he saw a sea turtle dragging herself ashore to lay eggs. And there, standing atop the last stack of appliances at the very edge of the beach, where a recycling service came to pick them up every Monday, the simply saw his disciple raise one fist in the face of the rising sun in a shout in triumph at the top of his lungs. "Oh my goodness!" Yagi shouted, buffing up into his muscle form and dashing across the beach, just in time to catch Midoriya's fall. How does it look, Yagi-sensei?" the green asked breathlessly.
All Might's signature smile widened. "Young Midoriya, you've exceeded my every expectation. I didn't even think you'd be possible to clean the beach by next February. Yet you did it just over half the time," he said, carefully setting the team back on his feet. "You were skinny when I first met you, but now you're outright jacked." Midoriya smiled weakly and looked down at his well-muscled physique. Great Gains was truly an amazing quirk. And at that moment, the future hero aspiring crime lord decided one thing was certain: giving it back to his dad. "I guess I have come a long way, haven't I?" "You have truly gone beyond in the pursuit of excellence, and your effort begets the reward," Yagi said, reaching out to pluck a strand of hair from his own head. "My mentor once said that a gift you're given for hard work isn't a gift. It's simply what you deserve, what you are owed. Now, eat this!" "What?" Midoriya asked after a few moments of silence. The transfer works when you digest something containing the previous user's DNA. All Might. I figured hair would be the least disgusting option. I have a thermos of coffee over there that you could put a drop of blood in. I think that would be significantly less gross than eating hair," Midoriya responded flatly, I'm sorry. "I can't English today." A sheepish look crossed All Might's face. "Maybe you're right. Let's do that instead, young Midoriya." Several quick swigs and 10 laps up and down the beach later, and a strange sensation like electricity flowed briefly through Midoriya's limbs, before settling into more of a low humming sensation, vibrating through all his cells. Yagi-sensei, I think I just digested it," the teenager called, coming to a stop in front of his mentor. "Glad to hear it, young Midoriya," Yagi responded, getting off of the recently installed park bench. In that case, I think it's time to start training one for all. The ocean should be clear outwards from here within the range of your current power. Go ahead and start things up with the Detroit Smash. Right, Midoriya said, turning and walking down to the shoreline. Taking a power stance, the green-haired teen focused on calling up the storm of energy from within the pit of his stomach, while also drawing on one of the newer quirks in his collection, shock absorption, just to be safe. The teen clenched his fist and opened his eyes, drawing one arm back as the incredible power within him flowed into the appendage and into the world. Detroit Smash! A veritable storm of energy exploded into the world from the end of his fist, ripping a massive channel into the ocean outward for several kilometers before dissipating. A grin split Yagi's face as the wind whipped past his face until he noticed his successor's bruised arm. Young Midoriya, are you alright? The teenager turned to face his mentor and held up his bruised appendage with a pained grin. It doesn't feel broken, but it does hurt a lot. I think I may have sprained something. Is there a good way to get this repaired before my parents panic? He asked. Yagi coughed up blood for a second before grabbing his phone and hitting the button. Pick up, he muttered before a voice crackled through the... Oh dear, Toshinori. Oh dear, Toshinori. You seem to have gotten yourself and your successor into quite a pickle this time. Nezu, how did you... Yagi began before remembering who he was talking to. On second thought, I'm not going to ask any more questions about how you knew my successor had hurt him. Just tell Recovery Girl we're going to need her, okay? I can do that. And to answer your question, I hacked into all the cameras near Dagobah Beach. It's been a slow day here at UA. Right, Yagi said, letting out a breath of relief when the line disconnected with a click. Young Midoriya, I'm gonna drive you to UA and have your arm treated by Recovery Girl. You should rest on the way. Take a nap in the truck if you feel the need. The young man nodded wearily and followed his mentor to his obnoxiously yellow pickup truck, managing to get in with only one arm with mild difficulty. He found himself dozing off despite the pain. The noise of traffic fading away as he found himself surrounded by a thick black mist with a large metal door in the middle. Where the heck am I? Is this a dream? Midoriya wondered to himself. And what's behind this door? The green-haired teen reached towards the door, only for a hand to grab his wrist. A hand clasped in a yellow glove. A light coughing sound alerted to the presence of a third person. Turning towards the source, he was met with a vestige of a person he'd only seen once as a solitary photograph on his father's desk once. And when he looked back at the individual, he saw a woman noticeably resembling his mother. Uncle Yoichi? Grandma Shimura? Is this the insider one for all? The teenager wondered. Hello, Izuku, his uncle said. As you may have guessed, we have a lot to talk about. And thus, that concludes today's episode. Whew! This was a very entertaining chapter. And unfortunately, I can't really get to the meaning. I really can't wait to get to the next episode. So please, do yourselves a favor. Please, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Except maybe check out a few other videos or whatever. I don't know. Uh, uh, can't believe it's finally done for tonight. Man, I'm tired. Well, I better sign off for the night. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to stick around. I might upload again tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean the day after I upload this video, because I literally just uploaded today on July 16th, 2023. So this is most likely will be going up sometime on July 17th. Maybe sometime in the afternoon. I don't know. We'll find out when it happens. In the meantime, see you next time. Chaos Control!